Changes in how we fight that war, and he has ordered more Predator drone strikes in his first year than President Bush did in 8 years. But according to Republicans, the president isn't using the words war on terror often enough, and that he's making a mistake by trying to close the prison at Guantanamo Bay, something President Bush also advocated. Is the Obama administration soft on terror, or are his Republican critics engaged in shameless hypocrisy? Here to face off are Democratic strategist Patrick Murphy and Republican strategist Doug Heye. Gentlemen, I want to start with something that we've seen sort of a noticeable change in tone in President Obama. Yesterday, when he was talking about terror, he said, "Great nations don't hide behind walls. That's what our adversaries want. So long as I'm president, we will never hand them that victory," as if anybody wants to hand terrorists a victory. And then again, he sort of put us in terms of do we want to be leaders or not with his remarks today about green jobs. Watch this.
I want the United States of America to be what it has always been, and that is a leader, the leader, when it comes to a clean energy future. And that's exactly what this clean energy manufacturing initiative will help us do.
Now, Doug, here's why I think this is more challenging, because it leads to the question, do people oppose President Obama like yourself? Do you not want the United States to be a leader?
No, absolutely. We want America to be a leader. We want America to be a leader in the economy. We want America to be a leader on energy, whether that's wind or solar, or even exploring oil off the coast of Ghana, which I think President Obama had an opportunity to really push for when he visited that country. The question is, how do we get there? And that's where Republicans disagree, and they'll stand up and disagree. I think that's absolutely proper.
And Patrick Murphy, doesn't this get to the point, though, if it was wrong for the Bush administration to say you're either with us or you're against us in terms of fighting terrorists by whether you support Iraq, isn't it also wrong for the Obama administration to say if you're against my Greens jobs policy, you're somehow against the United States being a leader?
Well, I think the Bush administration benefited from the years of having Democrats in the House and Senate basically be respectful of the president as commander-in-chief and be respectful for his position on foreign policy. I think the nattering nabobs of negativism that we're hearing from the Republican Party right now is really shameless and shouldn't be brought in at this point. I mean, Barack Obama's commander-in-chief, and January 20th, he stood up to defend, defend the United States of America, and that's his job. And whether it's energy or the war on terror, I think you have to give him a certain amount of respect that he's working very hard at it, and that the Republicans had their chance, and they need to be supportive of this president.
And on that point, one person who's not been supportive is former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Here's what he said about President Bush and President Obama compared on the issue of terrorism. Watch.
What he should be doing is following the right things that Bush did. One of the right things he did was treat this as a war on terror. We had no domestic attacks under Bush. We've had one under Obama. Number two, he should correct the things that Bush didn't do right. Sending people to Yemen was wrong. Not connecting, not getting this whole intelligence thing correct is both Bush's responsibility and Obama.
So there he said, Doug, Giuliani said, we had no domestic attacks under President Bush. What about 9/11? What about the anthrax attacks? What about Richard Reed?
Well, certainly nobody knows better about 9/11 than Rudy Giuliani. One of the things I find
what's his game here? What's he trying to do here?
Well, I think he's trying to address, the real issue of how we move forward. I mean, certainly there was the shoe bomber, obviously 9/11. Democrats seem to, every time Rudy Giuliani steps up to say anything, they say, oh, here's Rudy Giuliani talking about 9/11 again. Well, that's what he knows. It was a definable moment, not just for our country.
But he also knows that 9/11 happened. Why not, if that's his point, if his point is, look, the United States is not handling terror properly, why doesn't Rudy Giuliani, after that ridiculous statement, issue a statement saying, I apologize, I misspoke. Of course I know about 9/11. Of course there were domestic attacks under President Bush.
Well, I think you'll have to ask Mayor Giuliani about, what specific statements he made. But clearly, he's talking about what the best way forward is, and that's really what's critical. And he has absolute expertise on that. Every politician is going to make a misstatement every day or at some point during a year. But clearly, he knows on a very personal level what really the stakes were, because he experienced them and he was there for us. And that's why so many Americans
except the distinction here is that Rudy Giuliani, unlike other politicians, is not apologizing or correcting this one. But in any case, Patrick Murphy, what do you make of what's going on?
Well, I think for Rudy Giuliani, who had a bombing at the World Trade Center and then moved the city of New York Crisis Center into the World Trade Center was an incredibly inept move on his part and led to some serious problems when 9/11 did occur. I think the Republicans are angling to try and make Barack Obama look soft on terrorism. There's no way they can. He's the commander-in-chief. He knows better than anyone in this country what's at stake, and he wakes up every morning and faces that, and I think is doing a very good job at trying to keep us safe.
Hey, Doug, I have one more hard one for you before we let you go. Sarah Palin, she's going to speak at the Tea Party convention. She's decided to bypass the CPAC convention. Another speaker at the TPAC convention is this guy named Joseph Farah. He's a columnist. Last year he wrote, "This is the president who publicly supports ethnic cleansing in the Middle East against Jews, not just in Gaza, not just in Judea and Samaria, not just in East Jerusalem," on and on. He also believes that President Obama really was not born in the United States. Doesn't Sarah Palin have an obligation, if she's going to speak at this convention, to distance herself from this clown?
You know, small world for you, David. I used to work for a congressman from California who co-wrote a book with Joseph Farah. So I know WorldNet Daily and all that really well. I think it's important to stand up and make clear distinctions where you disagree with somebody, absolutely. And I tell you, there's so many Republicans who are tired of the very issue as to whether or not Barack Obama is a citizen or a legitimate president. Absolutely he is. And if Sarah Palin stands up and says that, I think there are a lot of Democrats on this network, a lot of Republicans too, who will applaud her for doing that. I think she ought to also address CPAC. That's a time-honored conservative tradition. And if nothing else, gave MSNBC and all the cable networks a lot of Rush Limbaugh footage from last year.
Well said. Doug Hyde, Republican strategist, Patrick Murphy, Democratic strategist. Thank you both, as always, for coming on this Friday afternoon.
Thank you. Happy Elvis birthday.
Happy Elvis birthday, indeed.